Welcome, everyone, to the Feminine Outliers podcast, your dose of fun, life advice, and experiences from two African professional women living and working in the Western world. We are your hosts, Zelda Wasau
and Cholwe Mandona.
And we are excited to have you here with us today. So welcome back. We are very excited about this topic. Well, I wouldn't say excited, but I would say it's an important, deep topic to discuss that, I'm sure many of you have seen is kind of taking over our lives or taking the world by storm. But it's just, there's a lot more to the topic that meets the eye and that we want to discuss from a lot of different facets of life. So yeah, we're excited to talk about that. But as per usual, we're going to talk about our unlearning for the week first. And I'll go first. Mine is pretty simple. I might have mentioned this before, but I am unlearning overthinking things, or at least trying to put a reason to everything. Like, something small happens and you're trying to be like, did someone mean it like this? Or was this the like meaning behind this? Why did they do this? Or it's something so silly that I think about when I was driving home yesterday. And you know how you always have that one car that seems impatient and they just keep on switching lanes?
Yeah.
And in my head, I'm like, where are you going? Like, first of all, because it's traffic. Like, so you're just trying to go to the faster moving lane. You're just going to go and you're going to be stuck right in front there. But in my head keeps on, it really delves in deeper into that. Like, why are they switching lanes constantly? What is the purpose? But then I realized, I mean, why should I think about it? Does it even matter? Like, let them do them. Like, whatever they want to do, if that's what they want to do, that's fine. I also, you also don't know the reason why they're doing it. Yes, they might just be an impatient person, like you think, and that's why they're doing that. Maybe they have an emergency. You don't know. You don't know. They could be taking someone to the hospital, or they have to get somewhere really fast. You don't know. The truth of the matter is that you most likely will never know. So it's like, in my head, I'm like, why does that occupy space in my mind? That's just an example of some of the things that can happen that you just think about them a tad bit too much, and in reality it's like, well, what's the point? I mean, why do you think about it like that? So I'm trying to train myself to not do that, because it's not worth it. And then obviously I think as humans we always think about worst case scenario, or we think about the negative scenario. You don't think about the positive scenario, which could also be very much in play. Like in the case about the car, the quote unquote positive scenario that would make sense is maybe they have an emergency and they need to get to it. And in that case, I'd be like, oh yeah, that definitely makes sense. And it's not as if they weren't even bothering me. I was just watching the car from the back, and I'm like, what are they doing?
Yeah.
But honestly, I just realized, no, just let bygones be bygones. I just don't think about it. It doesn't add any value to my life. It might take away some value.
Yeah.
Sometimes. So it's just some of those silly things that you just remind yourself, oh, don't think about it too much.
Yeah. I like that. I do like that. I when I think of overthinking, at least if I've done it in the past, like I also see it as like a way to try and gain groundedness or some sense of security by having a reason. So like it's just maybe it's part of just our survival mechanism to sort of say, well, this person is probably weaving through the traffic because of this, as opposed to just like, what if the person is weaving through the traffic for fun? Um, uh,
Right?
and so there's always like, as you said, if you try to find a reason for everything, it's just like it doesn't hold water. um it's just maybe a way of just trying to calm your mind down, because it's like, should you also be weaving? Like, is there something coming behind you that you haven't noticed? So maybe this person is running away from, I don't know, some tornado that's coming from behind, or some dinosaur, I don't know. So uh
Dinosaur.
and yeah, I just added that in there. But yeah, so like you said, it's actually just unnecessary. You can save your time. You can save yourself time and energy, and put it elsewhere. And maybe it could be that part of self regulation that we have talked about in our previous episode. So I agree with you.
Hmm. Yeah,
Nice.
definitely. And
Hmm.
what are you learning this week?
Yeah. So for me this week, I am unlearning that things don't fall in your lap. Um, and I know it's one of those unlearnings that I know this, but I maybe unconsciously know this. Like, there's when we are growing up, you your parents try to instill principles, like good principles, like work hard, do your homework, put the milk back in the fridge, all of those things. And maybe at the time they feel like such, like a lot, it feels like such hard work, or it feels like a chore to do these things, and you're like, why? I just want to rest, I just want to watch TV, I just want to, I just want to relax, like play with my friends. um and now I think I reflect on this, and I'm realizing that every dream that I want, every desire, like everything, I need to put in some action. And even if the action is like a prayer, or like, it doesn't, I mean, not, it doesn't necessarily have to be a very big action, but just realizing that things don't just come into my lap, and like whatever I want would just come. It's like I have to put some action towards it. Um and if you don't make any changes, nothing changes. So your reality just
Hmm.
doesn't change. And it's a bitter pill to swallow in a way, because it's just one of those things where it's like, yeah, so it means whatever actions you take today pretty much impact your future for tomorrow. I mean, your tomorrow, your future rather. So it's just something to keep in mind. And yeah, so.
When you see things and learning that things don't always fall into your lap, I feel like for a lot of us, that's like common sense, but it's only common sense for certain things.
Mm,
Like, I feel like there's certain things, I have to work for this, or I have to put in effort for me to get it. But there's certain things we all want in our lives that you're in denial that you actually have to put in the effort to get it.
mm,
And I
mhm,
think that's when you really need that reminder that things don't always fall into your lap, because it's, for some reason, it's like you have amnesia with that particular, you know, desire or need, because
mhm,
it's like you don't you're not doing what you're supposed to do for it to attain that desire or that need, and you just have to be reminded that things don't fall into your lap. I mean,
mm,
because I feel like, there's certain things in a certain place. things in my life that I was, for example, I would probably say like a year ago, I was like, yeah, I want to be fit and all that. But I mean, how am I going to be fit? I have to actually put in the work, which
Mm,
I'm doing that now. But back then, because putting in the work is takes effort, it takes you
mm,
getting out of your comfort zone. It can be
mhm,
really hard, like
mhm,
just to do it. And I think when putting in the effort, the work, it just if it's like a hurdle to get over, that
mhm,
is when that amnesia hits really hard because you're just like it's like your body or your brain is just trying to prepare that, oh my goodness, you actually will have to do this, like
mm,
because yeah, I definitely suffer with that with certain in certain aspects of my life, and the other aspects of my life which I know I have to put in the work, like to become a
mm,
doctor I knew I had to put in the work. That was not a doubt, like there's no doubt in my mind. And the
mhm.
other things, it's like in my head I'm like, why has this not happened? Hello.
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah.
so
Mm,
it's a good reminder. It's a good thing to always, unlearn.
mm. That's a good point. That's a very good point about having that amnesia for the things that require significant effort. And but you're also just making me realize that. But once you get that thing going, there's a point where you probably are going to ask yourself, why didn't I start this earlier? And that's like also another thing to like kind of overcome because you're like because now it's now become part of your atmosphere and but the initial start felt like this was like moving a mountain and it was so hard. So um yeah, no, I think that's just the part that's just the hardest to overcome. um but it's just something we have to go through if we really want the thing that we want. So yeah.
Hmm.
Mm,
That is very true. Good
tough.
one.
Yeah.
Yeah, tough, but good reminder for all of us.
Yeah.
Okay, so we're gonna get into the topic of the day slash the week. And it's just basically we're talking about power. Um,
Mm,
and I'm like, is power the root of all evil?
mm,
Because we have seen so many examples recently and even in the past of when someone has power and the power corrupts them and what they do when they have power.
mhm,
And there's so many examples. And what led us to want to talk about this topic today is because for I assume a lot of people know the whole PDD scandal. Um, I guess his real name is Sean Combs or something like that,
mhm,
and how he's in jail right now, awaiting trial because he's been accused of a lot of things, including sexual abuse of minors, and he's been accused of a lot of different things, and the accusations will come into light in the upcoming weeks whenever he has a trial. But
mm,
it's a whole scandal because there seems to be a big like ripple is like a ripple effect in Hollywood. Like all of a
mm,
suddenly you're seeing a lot of CEOs stepping down. There's this I'm not sure if it's real. I have because we still need more information, but there's this speculation that Jay-Z is divorcing Beyonce or
mm,
Beyonce's divorcing Jay-Z. I don't know which one of them is divorcing who.
mm,
But so there's a lot of like people either stepping down from positions and divorcing people, and the assumption is it's because they are related to Diddy in some way, or they
mm,
knew what he was doing, or were associated with it in some way. And
mm,
so by these associating with him, or not exactly associating with him, by them stepping down from their positions, their companies are still okay.
mm.
the company still survive because you step down from your position, so the company can still survive and still be okay, have a good name, and they
Mhm.
can say you're no longer associated with the company or something like
Right.
that.
Yeah.
There's a lot of that that's happening, and it's really interesting. Of course, we don't have all the details, but when I was, as I've been watching the news and listening to what people have to say about it, it's, I'm not gonna lie, it doesn't surprise me,
Mm.
but it's still sad.
Yeah.
It doesn't surprise me because I've seen this in so many different aspects. Like, he's an example of, someone with power in, like, entertainment industry. You
Mhm.
have, like, what's his name? Is it Harvey Weinstein?
Mm.
Is
Oh
that what I
yeah.
saying?
Yeah.
Um, he was another example of someone who ended up being convicted. And it's like a lot of these, like, men, they've been put in power, and it's like now all of a sudden the things that I feel like power in a sense kind of brings out your carnal desires because
Mm.
now you actually have the ability to fulfill them.
Right. Yeah. Yeah.
So that's when a lot of these things happen because, like, you see this also with leaders in the countries, you know, when they are in power. Like, I know in Kenya, for example, there's a history of, people, some presidents come to power and people who oppose them, some people just disappear. And you're like, where do they disappear to? They're
Mm.
killed. Um, but you can do that when you're in power and it's not going to be checked.
Mhm.
Um,
Mhm.
and that happens in so many different countries as well, in which you trigger the powerful and you deal with the consequence of that. So
Mhm.
there's so many examples in life where someone in a position of power is misusing or abusing their power because they have the ability to. And that's essentially what we are talking about on this episode.
Yeah. Wow. Yeah, it is sad. It is sad what is coming out. And it's and I think it's like when it comes to celebrities and our relationship with celebrities as whether it's consumers of their product or their service, um it's just dawned on me that we are the ones giving them the power in a way, because where are they getting that power?
Yes. Yes. Sorry. That was something I was definitely going to talk about.
Yeah, no, because I was like, I yeah, because it really has dawned on me because also you mentioned like it gives people this to be able to express their carnal desires. And one of the things I realized, at least for me when it comes to celebrities, is that they're just like every one of us. Like they're just human beings. They didn't necessarily go
Hmm.
through like character development. Um they what has kept them where they are is their gift. And most likely it's a God-given gift, whether it's for like let's say music, and they just have this talent to draw people in. But nobody ever questions their character, how they were raised. And in some situations they were not even raised in a way that would allow them to create that, I don't know how I could say, lack of a better word, moral sensitivity. Some of the celebrities that we give power to rather do not come from from situations, upbringings that would have allowed them maybe to sort of create, to have that sensitivity, moral sensitivity. So um yeah, so those were just my initial thoughts around that. And so for some reason, we then get brainwashed by what they say, what they do, and everything becomes
Hmm.
ultimate truth. And it's like, no, no. That's just my initial thought on this.
Yeah, I think I think it's a very deep thinker initial thought.
But that's just
I
me.
mean,
That's just me coming from there. It's just like, why?
yeah, because I did think about it. I definitely did think about that. Like the reason why these people have power is because we give it to them. But a lot of people will not stop to think about this or think about that. Because when you think about um, leaders like in the countries, like presidents, prime ministers, kings, queens, when people realize the power that they have, like if they realize that, okay, fine, so and so is ordering me to do this, but the reason why so and so is ordering you to do this and you feel like you have to do it is because they have their goonies and whatever who will enforce that, who have given their power to this person, who are just
Mm-hmm.
listening and doing whatever they're being told to do.
Mm-hmm.
If those goons stop to think for themselves, the king is ordering me to kill these people, but
Mm-hmm.
why do I need to kill them? They're innocent or something like that. If they're not collaborating with the king, or if they're not, what is it, enablers.
Mm-hmm.
Enablers is a huge thing when it comes to this power struggle. It's like if they realize, no, the king is just but one person,
Mm-hmm.
and you only give he only has like as much power as you give him.
Mm-hmm.
So that's when you have coup d'etats and all that stuff, because the people realize, wait a minute, if we all just come together and we use the military, we can
Mm-hmm.
actually throw over the government. And it's like, that's when you realize, yeah, we only have power as long as we give it to you. But it usually takes people getting backed up in corners to realize that.
Mm-hmm.
Um,
Mm-hmm.
so for the most part, we just end up having people being enablers. Like it's a huge issue. And I think that's why, the examples I was talking to you about are examples of people who potentially could be enablers, like all the people, CEOs who are shutting down, who are like resigning, the other celebrities who are also, there could be other celebrities who also been enablers in the whole Diddy scandal, and
Mm-hmm.
like who play a big role in this, because if you had maybe tried to put a stop to it, maybe it wouldn't have gone that far.
Exactly. Yeah. Because one of the things I was just also thought one of the things I thought about is just the power of culture, or the power of um, being in numbers. Because I've always known, well, I guess in the past, if I've watched some interviews, I've always had this idea that, like in Hollywood, you needed to be a particular type of person, like character, or have a particular attitude to the I want to say like the political game in Hollywood. um
Mm-hmm.
like if you were to get a lead role in a movie, or to be given a chance to record a label, like people who had those powers had certain ideas of what the person would look like. And I'm probably thinking you may have to have like a hustler mentality. um and if you compare it to like everyday life, to some extent that's like office politics. If you're like, if you have a, like, let's say a corporate job, you can relate that to something like office politics, where you have to be in the game to sort of try and get yourself to the place that you want to get to. So I'm wondering if people, as you were putting it, whatever was going on, like people were just like, okay, I really really want this role, I'm going to put a blind eye to this. I really want this, so I'm going to put a blind eye to this. you know um and so there's a bit of like, the more you want to get power, probably the less empathetic you are, because you're like really you're really set on getting to a particular place because that is your desire, and like you want to work hard, and especially people who are very, I don't know how to say, motivated or talented, or they just have that drive. They probably are just like, I'll just keep going until I get to my place. And yeah, so maybe that could be what is going on as well. That power of culture.
Mm. I feel like yeah, and the power of culture. In my head, I'm always like, but why do we give it that power? It's,
Why do we?
you
Yeah.
know, in my head, I'm like, but why? But
Mm,
I think it just comes down to you don't want to be the one, like the whistleblower, because
yes.
everyone else will be like, you're worried about repercussions because, again, people are not realizing if we all stand up together, then this will stop, or you know, so it becomes, oh, let that one person say something, because like if that one person says something and the person in power retaliates, but then you all stand by that person,
Mm-hmm.
you're taking away the power that the person in power has. And
Yeah, that's true.
but I think we just don't realize it, as you said, the power in numbers. Like
Yes.
there is power in numbers, but we just don't realize, people just don't realize it. They don't want to take that step to just be that whistleblower person, which you need a whistleblower because that's the only way some of these things get done or get dealt with.
Mm,
Because, you know, as we see all these things that are coming up, it just, when you're not in power and when you're in a vulnerable position, that's when having someone who can protect you and be there for you is so important.
mm, mm,
Because if you're a child and you can't protect yourself from sexual abuse or something, because you don't really know what's happening,
right. Yeah.
that's when you need like a strong parental presence to be your guide, to be your protector and stuff like that. But
Mm-hmm.
it's so unfortunate that a lot of these people in power, they know how to, they know the cracks in the system,
Right. Yeah.
so
Yeah.
they kind of know how to go about doing it, and go about abusing their power.
Mm,
And it's just, you know, because like the whole Diddy scandal, he, from what it sounds like, this has been going on for years.
mm,
And why, and I think it's Cassie
mm,
uh coming out with that whole video and stuff. I think this was, that was the catalyst
mm-hmm.
for everything now really being, really like being thrown into the limelight.
Mm-hmm.
And it's just, but you know, the ironical thing is with him, you still have, I mean, obviously everything is alleged. We
Mm.
don't fully have all the information, and it's still an ongoing process.
Right.
But
Yeah.
it's just, you're seeing all these people come forward and you're starting to hear all these stories and you're just like, what? It's so,
Mm,
if I had, I'm just like, but how did other people let this go on for so long?
long. Yeah.
And but you realize it's just, people can feel, when you're dealing with someone in power, people can feel so powerless because
Correct.
it's like the whole, I don't know if I'm saying his name right. Is it Harvey Weinstein?
Yeah. No. Yeah. That's correct. I.
Because he is the one who was accused of sexually abusing a lot of like women, right?
Yeah.
Who he
Yeah.
was working with.
Yeah.
But then these are adult women. But they just feel like, you know, to get their career, to get their career more like, to progress in their career, they needed to go along with it.
Mm-hmm.
And I mean, okay, in my head, I'm like, first of all, my initial instinct was like, why would you just do it? Why wouldn't you just um, kind of forget about your career and just protect yourself? But then I also realized that's just easier said than done.
Yeah, it's easier. It's also easier said than done because we may not understand, again, going back to people's upbringing and having that sort of sense of self, um
Hmm.
because like if the person is, like, I'm just this is an hypothetical example. Sometimes people are put between a rock and a hard place. So if they get a chance to have to be interviewed or to be given a spot with a person that could potentially change their life forever and in such a exponential way, and they think about like, oh, I'm definitely not going back home to my parents, or I don't even have parents to go back home to, or I don't even have a place to call home, and I definitely don't want to go back to waiting tables or whatever it is. So I think it requires, because I think these situations require a certain atmosphere to sort of say, this is a better option than me trying to like go back to doing something I don't want to do. Um, because I, if you think about this, is like we talked about like Kano desires, because I also think that maybe some of like Kano desires also feed Kano desires, meaning that like when we think of like celebrities, what do they do that helps us? They help us distract us from our lives. Some people
Mm.
um can sit at home the whole day, do nothing but just listen to music. And like for example, like teenagers, for example, who are a lot into celebrity culture. Like celebrity culture is like it's like an escape. It's part of their world because they can't talk to their parents about the issues they're having at school. But
Mm.
some musician who sings about their life story, or had hard times. I've heard it countless times that people are like, oh, this musician helped me find my way, my home. And teenagers are very well known, for example, to take on like even the dressing, the just because that is someone they look up to, that is not their parents or that is not their guardians. And so maybe the question becomes is like, how do we address our insecurities also in a way that doesn't involve us having to be like, yeah, like in a way that we start identifying ourselves with our celebrities. Um because if we weren't listening to music, maybe it would have been what, playing basketball outside? I don't know, like um things that just
You can play basketball while listening to music.
I know, I know, but like like so it's almost like we. I think the thing is that we are saying that they have a part of our lives, and we appreciate, or like somehow we
Mm.
accept what they're offering, but then we're
Hmm.
not accepting of like what they're doing behind the scenes. I guess that's what we're saying, but I don't know how we can curb that or like I don't know.
I I don't think this is an easy answer
It is not. Yeah.
because it takes a lot of introspection on a lot of different people's parts
Mm,
because I just feel like, so like let's talk about celebrity culture and let's talk about why the celebrities have so much power that they feel like they can get away with all this stuff. It's because as the fans we go crazy over them, and
mm-hmm,
then that inflates their egos,
mm,
and fans are willing to do a lot of things for these people just because they've idolized them. So
Mhm.
that's us giving them power as well,
Mhm.
which just enables things to get even worse if someone already has some dirty secret. It's like, they
Mm.
know they have a whole horde of people supporting them and stuff like that, and it just inflates people's egos. So it becomes a thing of how can we appreciate celebrities without idolizing them? And then
Mm.
how can we keep them accountable also for what they do
Mm.
in general? And how do we hold them to like good moral standards,
Mm.
whatever good or moral
Or whatever
standards
they are.
means
Yeah.
for you?
Exactly, exactly. There's a range, right?
There is, because some things are just downright unacceptable. And it just becomes a thing of, I don't know. This is why I just don't like dabbling with people in power. It's just because of we have given them the power,
Mhm.
but we don't know how to take the power back either.
Oh yeah, because you alone are not gonna take the power back. You need like the rest of us to like take the power
Yeah.
back. You know what I mean? Yeah.
hmm And then
So.
it just becomes this whole thing. So it takes like a scandal for now power to be taken back. And it
Mm.
becomes like, but why does it have to get to that state? Or that stage,
Yeah.
like, why don't we think for ourselves and just realize no, like, because the thing is this: power in the right hands is amazing. It's a good thing, because there are
Right.
definitely people who have in positions of power and have used it for the good of humanity, whichever
Mhm.
country you're in or whatever. There are definitely people who use power really well, but
Mhm.
I think that takes someone who is has a really good sense of self,
Mhm.
someone who has probably dealt with their traumas,
Mhm.
um, who generally is a good person
Mhm.
to actually use their positions in power well, who's secure. Um, it takes that, because the moment you come in with your emotional baggage and your traumas and everything, and then you get put into power, oh my goodness, that becomes a recipe of disaster. Because like for Diddy, his dad apparently is like a drug kingpin in New York,
Mm.
and he was killed when Diddy was 3 years old.
Mm.
I think that's when he died. And you start to hear that background, and you start to hear, huh, okay, you start to form a picture as to where this guy came from,
Mm. Yeah.
and like where he got his beliefs from, or his belief system, or his foundation.
Mm. Yeah.
And that already just starts to show, like, you can really start to see the cracks over there in that
Mhm.
aspect of things. And it's just so, like, for him, he probably had unresolved trauma,
Yeah. I wouldn't be
and
surprised. Yeah.
now it's also coming out now. When he's in power, he it comes out in certain ways, and he can also induce that trauma onto other people.
Mm. Yeah.
So it's really dangerous for someone to be in power when they don't deal with their own traumas and their own insecurities, because
Mhm.
they just end up pushing it onto other people, um,
Right.
or inflicting newer ones onto other people.
Mhm.
And it's just, because like the whole case right now is just, for me, I'm just like, huh, like, why? It's so annoying, because I like some of his songs, but there's that aspect of, do I should I listen to his songs now, because I don't like for his song. I think
Mm.
one of his favorite song is I don't know the name of, it's Every Step I Take.
Mm.
uh I love that song.
Mm.
It's such a good song. But the dub up's just like in my head I'm thinking about everything that's happening. I'm like, oh my goodness, oh my goodness. And
Yeah.
oh my goodness, the other thing is that uh, um there's also this divide that's happening because Diddy is black. And
Hmm.
there's some people in the black community who don't believe the allegations because I mean now they're playing the race card.
Mm.
I don't know. I can't speak to that.
Yeah.
I just think for me it doesn't matter what race you are. You need to be made accountable for your actions.
Right. Yeah. And also, I yes, I definitely agree with you on the idea that um somebody he's seen you to be accountable. And the thing about the songs is that that's his gift of music, but that music gift was housed in the embodiment of Sean Combs, and he comes with all of that history that you've just talked about. So
Hmm.
that's where I agree with you that we need to have that separation. That we're not saying that, his gift is bad. We're saying that his
Hmm.
doings, his actions, or whatever alleged, whatever he has been accused of doing, is what we're targeting here. And and I think there shouldn't be any like, the way I would look at it is like, the law, no one is above the law, I guess. So pretty much, it's it's just because he has accumulated, quote unquote, all this power, it doesn't take away, like, it doesn't, like, if power could buy us like an extra life, I would get that. I would be like, okay, you know what, this is one reason, you should, like, fight for it, because you're gonna have an extra life. You're coming back anyway. It's okay. It's all good. Whatever you did in this life, it's okay, since you're coming back. But the fact that that's not there, it's almost like, no, um, it's just magnified. But you're still the same person. You're just magnified. Um,
Hmm.
so that's how I would look at it. I was like, no, you still need to go through the whole system like everybody else. Yes, you you you've gotten power from people around the world, but it doesn't change the fact that you're just human. Um, and it's just what it is. Um, so
But that's very that's a very Western way of thinking about it. And I have to admit that is an advantage of being in the West. Is that sense that you said that no one is above the law.
mhm.
And I mostly agree with that.
Yeah,
There are people who think they're above the law,
that's the problem.
which is becomes a big problem. And I think um, Diddy is one of those people who probably thought he was above the law, or
Mhm.
probably figured he could finesse the law. Um,
Yeah.
but there
Yeah.
are people who are above the law in certain situations. I mean, we might not see it as much in the West. Maybe there is something in the West, but they're just really good at hiding it. Because you know how there is corruption in Western countries, but it's not. It's very finessed. It's not as outstanding Blair, like just there for you to see, like it is in
Mhm.
non-Western countries.
Yeah.
So I always feel like there's always that exception that can be above the law. As I mean,
Yeah.
certainly in dictatorships and stuff like that. Like you see it in countries, like you've seen it in some African countries, some Asian countries. Like there are people who are certainly above the law. Like one of my favorite shows is Narcos, um, and how Pablo Escobar, the guy literally was above the law in Colombia. Like,
Mm.
he could get away with everything. I think it took the Western world intervening
Mm.
for things to come into play.
Mhm.
But I think the problem is we give people that illusion that they can be above the law.
Yes. Yes. I think it's an illusion. To me, I think it's an illusion also just because, oh, and I think this is where things are all equal, in the sense that like the same person will experience death like everybody else. Like I don't know. So like I do think the right word is an illusion. So and and I think when I say above the law, so I think I'm probably extending it even a little bit deeper. Like this person is just literally human, but they have gotten it in their head that like now no one can bring them down, or
Hmm.
they are literally in control of every body, which is not true. And we have seen that in the past with some,
Hmm.
like what people would have considered superpower leaders or whatever, who have been brought down by their own people that served them. So it's I think it's an illusion, that they can think that way. And yeah, it's it's it it's pretty sad. But I see you mentioned something to say. This is why you don't like um hanging out, not hanging out, but rather being associated with people in power, because I can see that, because you only have so many cards that you can play,
Hmm.
when you're not the one having that power. Um, but I also question myself, is it normal though to desire that much power? Like in my head, I don't know. I'm just the type of person that, like, maybe that's just me. Like I like there's just some, there's some things I want in my life, and once I get them, I'm good. I'm really like just leave me alone. I'll live my best life here and drink my water. So I always wonder, like, wow, what is going on in this person's mind to desire what they desire, and to hold on to this much power? Like what is the void? I don't know. I'm trying to think, like, what are they trying to fill that cannot be filled by, like, I don't know, like a hot meal, a nice drink, and some good sleep. I don't know. Like, where are we?
But the, I don't know, but you think you're looking at it at a more simplistic manner, kind of thing.
I
Like,
know. I'm just
I
like wondering.
because I don't know. I think maybe like for you and me, like when you're satisfied with where your life is at, I think
Mm,
maybe that might be contributory because someone who's unsatisfied with where their life is at, they might want power.
mm,
They might crave it. If there's something that you want that can only be obtained with power, then you might also crave power.
mm,
There's some people who don't necessarily crave power, but they find themselves in positions of power, and then it unmasks a lot of things that you want. That's what I'm saying. Like it kind of brings
mm,
out your carnal desires because there are good people who get power and they kind of misuse the power.
mm,
Um, because I don't know, another example, Mahatma Gandhi,
mm,
very popular, well known, respected name. But he also had a scandal when it comes to sexual abuse.
mm,
And
mm,
you'd think someone like him is supposed to be like a saint.
mm,
So, but how is it that he had a scandal of his own? He probably got into power and something he kind of realized, my goodness, I can get away with certain things, and it
mm,
got to his head. So I don't think necessarily because there's some people who power just somehow gets them. I don't know. You
mm,
you don't end up. you end up in a powerful position and then you let it corrupt you. Because honestly, I just feel like that's where it comes down to it. Because even you not craving power right now,
Mm-hmm.
if you were given power and you kept on getting more powerful, and just you get used to the lifestyle and whatever,
Yeah.
who's to tell what is going to be triggered within you? It might be sleeping right now, it might be dormant simply because it's not even a thought, because you don't, it's not a possibility. So it's not something your body, your mind is even wasting energy on, because you just know, like, it's not
Mm.
happening. So it's like buried way deep inside you.
Mm.
But but if a chance comes and you're actually able to fulfill it because of some sort of power you get, and
Mm.
then that's when that comes out. And that's why there needs to be checks and balances for all of us,
Yeah.
because
Yeah.
you just never know. Um,
Mm-hmm.
you never know. And I would say even the people who use power for good, and we have a lot of examples of people who have done great things when in positions of powers, they still need checks and balances in case something goes wrong.
No, that's true.
It's just ultimately we're all human beings, we're all imperfect.
Mm-hmm.
So I just
Mm-hmm.
feel like that's why I'm saying sometimes power is just can just corrupt you, because you
Yeah.
might think you're holier than thou. Because
Mm.
why else do we also have scandals with a lot of pastors?
That's true. Yeah.
You know, because they're in positions of power, because people in charge believe them. Like, you know, you put your faith in them, you trust in them. And
Mm-hmm.
because some of the stories you hear of women getting impregnated by the pastor,
Mm.
and someone was like, oh, the pastor was praying over me. He told
Mm.
me to remove my clothes. It's part of the prayer ritual. In my head, I'm like, okay, one, why would you do that? But two, I mean, why would you listen to that? But like,
Mm.
people are so trusting in the pastor
Yeah.
that they
Mm.
don't realize it. And so that's why, like, I mean, I guess for me and you, because we're very much deep thinkers,
Mm.
and we think through things. In your head, you'll be like, excuse me? But maybe it's because that's where we're at now. When we were
Exactly.
more
That's fair.
naive, or because at some point we were younger, we're more naive. Some things happens, and then you don't realize it until you look back and you're just like, huh?
Yeah.
Wait, what's the point of that? So
Mm-hmm.
I don't know. I think I'm just going
Yeah.
around in circles. I even
No.
forgot what
No,
I.
that's no, you made yeah, no, you made a good point there to say if you haven't tasted power um and obviously power has a scale, right? So we also have our
Mm-hmm.
own level of power. It's not like we're completely powerless. Because
Mm-hmm.
we have to acknowledge that there are some people that, as you said, are invulnerable, literally in vulnerable situations that they feel that they don't have the power to say no or change their minds and just really
Mm-hmm.
carry out their own expressions. So there's some level of power, but yeah, but getting to this levels of power like PDD's level of power, I think yes, that I cannot um um understand what that meant if he was on cloud 99 and I'm only on like cloud 1, you know. Sometimes I get to cloud 9, but and then I
Yo,
and then I drop
yeah.
and then I drop back down to cloud 5. So I don't know. I yeah, so
But-
I
yeah. Cloud 9, Cloud 99. Um,
yeah, so I don't know. I don't know how. Yes, you're right. There's something else that could. There are other things that, as you said, could be buried in within me that I would express because now I clearly have like a lot of power. Um,
mhm,
so, but it's yeah, but as you said, w- the definitely the checks and balances does make sense. Um And not everyone will go through this sort of like, I don't know how to say, the pruning of their characters to a point that
Mm-hmm.
allows them to just look at life in a more positive and present, and like, so that's not necessarily happening. um but one thing that I will say is shout out to also the rise of, like, I want to say, let's say, YouTube University. um um in the sense that, or even just like Netflix. I'm just thinking of the platforms that have, like YouTube, for example. People have been allowed to set up their own channels, TV, quote unquote TV channels, in a way. To I feel like that for me has helped me to not focus on celebrities, because I can always tune into
Mm-hmm.
my favorite influencers, because they're also gaining power, because now I'm giving them my power. But
Mm-hmm.
I feel like their influence is much more valuable and transformative in my own life, so I'm willing to give them that power,
Mm-hmm.
um as opposed to just giving a celebrity power because I'm like, wow, they're a celebrity. Because even now, like when I think of like the red carpet and all that, it doesn't hold much water for me as much as it did when I was younger.
Mm-hmm.
Because I'm just like, okay, they dressed up and they went on a red carpet. But I'm gonna be here over here watching Tony make a protein shake, which I'm about to make just like her. So being able to relate to somebody who's sort of closer to home, for me, feels much
Mm-hmm.
more real than sort of looking at this celebrity that I'll never meet them ever. And so I also think that that has helped, at least for me, it has helped me, yeah, reduce that power giving.
I don't know for sure. I feel like like just the rise of influencers has actually helped with that because it's kind of like, oh, ordinary person doing ordinary things.
Mm-hmm.
And yes, sometimes I know they're not fully. I know sometimes they do it for the camera, but like it's nice to be able to relate to these people, which it might be harder for some other, like for the celebrities.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, I mean the last thing I'd say about this whole thing is, you know, you said like something like him being on Cloud 99 and stuff like that. When I think about the Diddy scandal, I think, I think the worst people to have power are the people who have been oppressed
Mm,
for the longest time.
mm.
Because I feel like all those emotions come out.
Oh, yeah.
Now
Yeah.
it's like revenge because
Mm-hmm.
um,
Mm-hmm.
and I don't know much about his childhood, but it doesn't sound like he it doesn't sound like the most unstable, but it doesn't sound like the most stable
Mm.
either. Um,
Yeah.
eh, we'll
Yeah.
find out more. We'll probably have another part two discussion about it. But
Yeah.
someone like him, probably, to become as successful as he did in the age where um, black artists were not as successful.
Mm.
Uh, probably all this, like, he probably just thought he was invincible because now he's like, I've made it. I was never supposed to make it based off conventional standards.
Mhm.
Those are the people who you really have to watch out. I think the most for when it comes to power because they tend to be the more predictable ones when it comes to misusing power. The other people can still do it and can do it in really slick ways. But
Mm.
these ones are just, I feel like sometimes it's just very obvious when you've
Mm.
been suppressed or oppressed in some kind of way.
Mhm. Yeah.
Because that's now it's like, oh, I can get it, I can let it all out on you. Um,
Mhm.
that's why, like, when people do a coup d'etat, and then it now becomes who's going to run the country? How's the country going to
Mm,
run? Like, you don't know how to run the country. You just
yeah.
wanted the person out. But did you think about now who's going to deal with the power vacuum and all that stuff? Like, people don't think about these things.
No, I get
And then it
that.
now
Yeah.
becomes, a whole other issue. Then they end up having someone who's not qualified. I feel like to gain power, you have to also be qualified for it. The
Yeah.
unfortunate thing is that a lot of people are not qualified when
Ve-
they actually gain power.
That's very true. But also think about it too. Would a person that just goes through a, as you, let's say, a more quote unquote, let's say, stable upbringing, do they even have that desire to want to have that power? Because I feel like those sometimes, when if you are in that sort of mindset, you think of fairness, and
Hmm.
somebody else who has grown up in an environment where they, like you said, they were suppressed, they were oppressed, their mindset is like tougher. It's like they more
Hmm.
have this like bulldozer mindset, like I am going to go for this, and in some way they probably quote unquote surpass people that just would
Hmm.
think, oh yeah, I didn't want to hurt this person's feelings. I didn't want to do this. If I did this, this is not good. Because if you think about it, a lot of these celebrities, their mindsets are different from regular people. Let's be honest. And part of it would may have been propelled by their upbringing. And so, and if you think about it, for a lot of people, quote unquote, that are successful, they have had to somehow leave their village, leave their what was considered normal, and do something way different to get to where they are.
Hmm.
And people are like, okay, seeing that you seem to be enthusiastic, driven, motivated, run this country. We'll give you your power. We think you're amazing. So that's the funny thing about the thing about power, is that the people that we should grant power to, that seem like they can make reasonable decisions,
Don't
don't,
desire it.
yeah, they don't desire it, and they don't show like they want it either. So
That's such a true statement. I mean, I'm not gonna lie. I like it's very true. The people who would actually be the best in power, they don't want it,
yeah.
and it's the ones who would make the worst decisions who want who end up in power.
Mm-hmm.
It's very true. Like, I have been told that before. Someone is like, "You would make a really good leader. You'd be very fair. You do this. You're very level-headed and everything." And I'm like, "Yeah, but I don't want to deal with your problems.
Mm.
Like,
Mm-hmm.
what to do with that?" And
Yeah.
like, I have seen this so many times.
Yeah.
So it's true. That's a very true statement. But then also, just because you don't want power, sometimes you find yourself in positions of power. Sometimes it happens. And then you still have to make sure, even though you're someone who would be a good person in power because you didn't want power, you ended up having the power. But
Mm-hmm.
you still have to be able to make sure you don't let power get to your head. Because as I said, there's still those carnal desires that you might not know you have, but that can be awakened by you
Mm.
having that power. So you'd still probably do a really good job, but you just always have to, checks and balances.
Mm-hmm.
Have good checks and balances because again, it doesn't. You might have a lesser chance of being a P Diddy case, but it doesn't mean you can't.
Mm. Yeah. No, I get that. It's very interesting, and I think if it almost sounds like we need to redefine our systems that we put in place, like what we praise, what we like, just the things that we admire, and we need to redefine that. And this is unrelated, but it sort of makes me think of how, because for example, how women are now getting paid, and like they have their own independence, and so even when they choose partners, they choose partners that are of equal footing, that want the same equal footing. So like we need to start reorienting ourselves, like give additional matrix to people that we give power to. Um so yeah, I don't know. I don't know how that can be done. I'm just saying we need to revise that. Because I'm just wondering in fact, Zell, I wonder what you would do if you were given power. In my mind, I'm just thinking like, if you're
I think
given the
people.
cloud 99, if you're given the cloud 99 power.
I don't know what I would do. Well, actually, I know I try to be very fair, and I try to be very. So you know how I'm very like, guys, emotional maturity, handle your emotions,
Yeah.
things like that. Like I think those ideas would come into place. Like, no, you're responsible for yourself. Do this, do that. They would come into place, and maybe some people wouldn't like certain things I
Yeah.
do
Yeah.
because they'd probably just be like, "Why is she doing
Why?
that?"
Yeah, exactly.
Why is
Exactly.
I don't know. Because like even when I think about being president and stuff like that, I feel like for me, it's all about like if I was president of this country, I would not spend a lot of money on the war effort
Mm,
or like funding other people's wars.
mm.
I'd focus the money back in America. Let's use it. Like maybe let's pay off student loans instead of using that money for funding whatever wars you're funding.
Like
I'll do things
defense.
like that.
Yeah.
But again, we don't know what's happening up there.
Yeah.
There's all these hands, invisible hands, puppet hands that are controlling things, and they know what the hell they're
Exactly.
doing.
Yeah.
We don't see the full picture. So
Exactly. Exactly.
that's how I will end that. But anyways, guys, we have
Mm.
to we have to end this episode here. Um I'm hoping you guys enjoyed it. I hope it was thought provoking. Would love to hear what you guys think about this as well. Just keep us up to date. Uh, you can follow us, listen to us, watch us on Spotify, Apple Podcast, YouTube, and all the other podcast platforms. We're on there. Please like, subscribe to our YouTube channel. We are working on, just getting out there, revamping, being more interactive with you guys. So please, you know, don't be afraid to drop us a comment, suggestions, whatever. You can still reach us on thefeminineoutliers@gmail.com. You can also reach us on Spotify. There's a little poll at the bottom in which you can actually get a hold of us. Um, and yeah, share it with your families, your friends, anyone who you think would benefit from this podcast. So thank you guys for listening. And until next time, have fun, live large, and don't be afraid to be an outlier.